everyone. Thanks for joining the Atman Show. And I have a very special guest. He has already come to my show, and his name is Amar Singh Chandel. And he's the author of three hugely popular self-help book, Cure Yourself Naturally, Stress to Serenity. And he has devoted his life to learning and teaching advanced technique of yoga. So, sir, and by the way, today's topic is about cancer. It's very deadly disease, and we are going to, learn about it, this disease, and how we can prevent it, and various other discussions. So, go ahead and give a brief the introduction about yourself, Mr. Amar Singh.
Well, for the past 50 years, I have been trying to help the doctors in spending the time with the people who badly need them to go to hospital for their lifestyle mistakes, for avoidable mistakes. So most of our doctors are trained to take care of the people who are in an emergency, what is life-threatening situation, not for the problems which are chronic and caused by their own mistakes. Nobody makes mistakes knowingly. It is just that they don't know what they're doing wrong. So once they know that these are the mistakes we're making, then it becomes much easier for them to avoid a trip to hospital or a doctor. That is my mission of life.
Okay. So, let's begin on our topic cancer. What is cancer?
Yeah. You see, we are spending billions of dollars on curing cancer. Focus mainly on that, 90% of our problem would be solved. Because as you must have seen, it has been growing like epidemic. In the recent times, cancer is becoming mainstream. When I was a young boy, cancer was so rare that maybe one or two people in a city would have cancer, and it used to cause a total scare among the people. But for the past 20 or 30 years, it is now so very common that you may find a cancer patient in every fourth house. So instead of just finding a cure for it, we should go in for what is cancer and how we can prevent it. So you are on the right track. Now we should understand what cancer is. You see, all our cells live for a certain time period and then they die. All healthy cells die. Cancer cells are virtually immortals. They refuse to die, and then they steal all the nutrition from other cells to grow themselves, to have more. It is our mistakes who bring them to life. And to understand how they thrive, we have to go to the very basic roots. When we take birth, for the first few minutes, we are only one cell. When we come to our mother's womb, we are just one single small microscopic cell with 23 chromosomes from the mother and 23 from the father. Inside the cell is our genes, which have our complete physical attribute details. Everything from how tall we are going to be, what will be the color of our hair, what will be the color of our eyes, what will be our height. Everything is in that blueprint. And not only that, the gene also has it at what age you will go gray and at what age you will go bald like me. Everything is part of your chromosome, depending upon the genes of your mother and father. Everything is predestined. This cell makes a copy of itself in 20 minutes or so. So 20 minutes after coming to this planet, from one cell you become two cell. I'm not talking about you. We go to two cells, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. Every cell makes a copy of itself. It divides itself into two, and the copy that it makes also has all the information about it. This way, after it has subdivided about 50 times, the original copy becomes too old. It is now incapable of making more copies. It is now redundant. It is time for it to die. And you'll be surprised, every cell has a suicide gene which tells it, buddy, you have divided enough number of times. Now you should commit suicide. And they automatically do. We never ever notice it. All our life, this has been happening. What happens is that if we drink too much, if we smoke too much, if we have chemical exposure, and if we eat foods that we should not, this suicide gene becomes ineffective. It the cell does not want to die, not that there's any fault with it, but because the environment is such that the cancer cell, that is the beginning of a cancer cell. If
Okay.
no damage is done, these are cancer cells without disease. Don't think these are cancer cells yet. They are ineffective because there are other lines of defense of protecting us. Just as in a computer, you have several ways of verification, just as the president of a country has several rings of protection, we have other rings of protection. If the suicide gene doesn't work, then we have what is called murderer genes, other cells which force this cell to die. So the best would be if it commits suicide. Even if it has not committed suicide, then there'll be other cells which will force it to die. Unfortunately, if we continue to make the same mistakes, if we continue to drink or smoke or to take bad, wrong food, even the immune system or the cells which can kill it, even they are not able to kill this cell. And now you have actual cancer cells in your system. There's a third line of defense. Look at the sheer beauty of the system. There's a third line of defense. Even if these cells are there, they are not yet cancer disease. They will be all collected, they will be quarantined into a tumor, which is a benign tumor. It is a tumor, of course, but it is not yet cancerous. So they will be set aside so that we can change our habits and this tumor would be useless. If we continue making the same mistakes, then this tumor becomes cancerous. And then that is the time when you actually have cancer. So if any patient has got cancer, it is only because he defied all the rules of good health, only then it develops. So to some extent, it is getting it are much more if there's a family history also. That does not mean that if you have family history, you are bound to have cancer. By changing your lifestyle, you can even avoid it. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. So yeah, another question is, cancer is very varied disease. There are more than 200 types and subtypes. What are the different types? Like you don't have to go 200, but in a nutshell, at a high level.
There is no difference between one of them or the other one. It's all a question of which part is most vulnerable. You see, we all have some manufacturing defect. All of us are born with some manufacturing defect because of our parents.
Mm-hmm.
If we have problems in our stomach, we will have colon cancer. If we have this problem in some other area, we may have some different form of cancer. So even when we have the 200 cancers only mean in which part they originate. At the end of the day, they are just cells which refuse to die. So instead of getting into the technicality, they
Mm-hmm.
are all just one cancer, just the location is different.
So it says that inherited cancer are only 5 to 10%, but other cancers are actually, because of the lifestyle. More cancers are happening because of lifestyle and less because of inheritance.
5 and 10%. It is the 90 credible. That's what I'm saying, that we can cure at least those 90% of people if only they know what kind of lifestyle to maintain.
Okay. All right. To let me go, one more thing. Cancer often has the ability to spread throughout your body. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in the world, but survival rates are improving for many types of cancer, thanks to improvement in cancer screening, treatment, and prevention. So, can you like divide it and tell about what are the, how we detect it, how we treat it, and how we prevent it?
My focus is on preventing it.
Okay.
As far as detection is concerned, state of the art hospitals are also already working on that.
Mm-hmm.
You see, if only we know that what can cause us cancer,
Mm-hmm.
then in which part they will take place, how soon they will develop, that becomes secondary. First
Okay.
of all, we should be clear that what are the factors causing cancer. Unfortunately, everything which is bad for us works very slowly. It does not make us sick very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
In case of other machines, for example, a car, we never put diesel in a petrol car because we know that the very next day or the very next minute it'll stop functioning. In our case, we do slow poisoning. The biggest example, alcohol. We all know that it promotes cancer. But even such a dreaded thing as alcohol is slow poison. Nobody says it will be uh, killing you in a day. You must have known many people who ruined their health by drinking. But you won't find even one person who became sick after drinking for just one day, or for that matter, 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
So that does not mean that it is not affecting you. It
Mm.
is still affecting. All these two things should be absolutely clear to us. Drinking is an invitation to cancer. Is also an invitation to cancer. When we take that, either of these two things, we are defying the knowledge that they all come up with strange arguments. One argument that I've heard repeatedly is, but then not everyone who drinks gets cancer. Of
Mm-hmm.
course he doesn't. But then everyone who smokes also doesn't get cancer. But should you take that risk? The chances of getting those are greatly multiplied. So these two should be on top of our list. Alcohol,
Alcohol and
claims,
uh, smoking,
and
right?
smoking. Alcohol
Yeah.
and smoking are the two factors about which we should have zero tolerance.
Zero tolerance, and not
Of
even in
course, the
parties.
more you take,
And like, say we go to
that is what I'm
party.
saying, is little too much. We should be clear.
Oh my God. Okay.
Told this lie by the interested parties that in moderation it is good.
Mm.
Please remember, it will only slow down the process of getting disease and the problem before that. But at the end of the day, there is no safe limit. If you think that uh, being below this limit would be okay, there is no safe limit. And another factor, very important to understand. You see, whenever a study is done about the effect of your alcohol or smoking or whatever, it is always done only on men.
Oh.
Why? After the Second World War, it was decided that look, women have to bear children. We cannot have any kind of experimentation on women. It is always, all tests are done on men with the belief that the bodies are the same, they would have the same effect on the men and women. Now, for the past 5 years, it is coming out that the bodies of the women are twice as sensitive, twice as vulnerable as that of men. For example, if men are told that you can safely take up to two um, doses of alcohol every day, 2 pegs of alcohol, that does not mean that the women can take also the same amount. The quantity in the case of women is exactly half. So this is now coming to light. The cutting edge technology is telling us that women have to have half dose of not only alcohol, but even such simple things as painkillers, Tylenol, and others. If 2 tablets of a painkiller are bad for men, in the case of women, it will be only one. This is the biological difference between them. So, when I say that one has to be very careful, I'm twice as worried about the women. So, the dose is even less for them. Same holds true in the case of cigarette also. Unfortunately, the girls are so keen that they think they can take as much alcohol and they can smoke as many cigarettes. I wish it could be true, but it is not. They would have to suffer twice as much to be borne in mind.
Wow, like so
Right?
you cannot, like, this is like, here it's a trend, right? If you go to a parties or something, you can, couple of drinks, and not even like, it's very natural. And you're saying, okay, that is bad.
Yeah. Sorry to disappoint you, but this is the hard fact. I am just being the messenger. It is the nature which has made things like that. We can't do much about it. So this is where we are. So we have
Okay.
to be careful.
Okay, I'll tell you one thing. Like, I have a friend um, who has a son who got cancer when he was like in teenager. Up until teenager, he was fine. He wasn't smoking. He was not drinking, and it was not even allowed. He was underage, and they were all having normal food, like, how we have dal chawal. And so then now she has to go for treatment, and she's really worried, and and people say that I want to ask one thing: why you think that happened? And the second one is, I'll come later. If someone has cancer, what we should do, what we should exercise, what we should eat, and you know so yeah, two-faced
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. You're not the only one. This happens to many people. Even I faced exactly the same story.
Okay.
This was a friend who was not a friend when this came to light. He became a friend later. His daughter, who was at that time in class sixth, that means who was about 12, she had developed cancer and she was not responding to even treatment. So he came to me through somebody, and then we started her regime that I thought could save her. You see, the first search, I always go in for the reason of something. The question which is bugging you, I had the same question. Here's a 12-year-old girl. She couldn't be drinking,
Mm-hmm.
she couldn't be smoking, and they did not even have a family history. Now,
Mm.
that was the worst part. No
Exactly.
family history of cancer,
Yeah.
and then you are intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
So then we had to go to the other features, the day to day eating features. Basically, there are 5 things beyond your smoking and drinking which can trigger cancer.
Mm-hmm.
One is too much of refined flour. If you take too many refined flour, it
Mm.
creates problems.
Okay.
Too much of milk concentrates like the Indian mithai,
Okay.
that can lead to the problems.
Mm-hmm.
Too many sugary items and too many fried items
Mm-hmm.
and too much of non-vegetarian food. All these 5 are the major culprits when somebody gets cancer like that. So I said, in her case, they were vegetarian, so
Mm-hmm.
the meat was also wiped out.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, she was also not into too much of either refined flour or even sugary things.
Mm.
Even I was flummoxed. How could she get cancer?
Mm-hmm.
The answer I could get only after meeting them repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
See, the mother was from a very rich family,
Okay.
and like most rich family from that region in the country, that was in India,
Mm-hmm.
they had a weird kind of a tradition.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is they always and always ate only refined flour. Regular flour, the whole wheat flour, was never used in the household. First problem.
Maida, maida.
Maida, that is maida.
Yeah, yeah. And white bread.
Always it was, yeah, from maida you make white bread, and even Indian roti was made from maida. And the
Oh.
second tradition was that roti was only taken during lunch. Dinner was always and
I'm
not
sorry.
affect the
Actually,
mother.
it got what was dinner? I didn't get that.
Not roti, it will be puri,
Oh,
fried one. जो पूरी बनाते हैं आप.
acha, acha.
It
Okay.
was puri. Now these were factors which did not affect the mother, but the daughter got this problem from such a young age. So about alcohol and smoking, of course, but we should also know that the foods that we eat on a daily basis can also create serious problems. That is why we are worried. How can somebody get such cancers without drinking and smoking? It is the everyday food, the so-called fast food or junk food, which is equally to blame. This is not commonly known.
Okay. So
You
now,
get the picture?
yes. So my another question is, supposing one has cancer and it is on stage one, right? What the person should eat, how should do, what should happen, what precaution? Can you just elaborate on that one?
You see, as I said, cancer cells are rogue cells. They're like dacoits, they're like robbers. Whatever food you give to your healthy cells, they snatch them and then they thrive on that. They're like any robbers. He is least bothered that you have hard earned money and how would your family run. He steals the money from you. Similarly, the cancer cells steal the food from you and thrive on that. If we had taken care in the very start, if we had been eating food which would not have precipitated a cancer, and we can come to that a little later,
Mm-hmm.
how to prevent it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we have to do is that we have to survive on those foods which can give us basic sustenance, but which are not liked by the cancer cells. There are certain foods which they just do not like. What are those? First of all, they don't like black grapes. So, somebody who's in the starting stage of cancer, he should go big on black grapes. The second thing they don't like is berries, whether it is blackberries, blueberries, cranberries, cancer cells just don't like them. So you can eat a lot of that. In fact, they hate all dark colored fruits. Any fruit whose pulp is dark in color, whether it is watermelon, whether it is jamun, any dark colored fruits have to be our first choice. They should be taken in abundance. And at the same time, we have to avoid the food which they love. What
Mm-hmm.
do they love? The same thing that most of us love. They love sugar. Cancer cells just love sugar. So, what should be your line of defense? The line of defense is completely cut out man made sugar from the life of a person who has had reports of cancer. You will be saving their life. How do they uh, uh, address their craving? Very simple. The sweetness in the fruits is not a problem. They can make do with very sweet fruits. Mangoes, famous Indian fruit, bananas, grapes, all right, lychee, uh, dates, raisins, figs, dried apricots, dried plums. Your sweet tooth can be taken care of. The only problem is man made sugar. It should be completely eliminated if somebody has a problem. So, this is the line for those who already have it. Of course, it will not work when it is in the stage 4. It is so far spread that at that time, even if you a lot. And why should we let it go to the stage of being a full blown cancer? We should prevent it at the very first stage. We should realize this. The cancer cells require an acidic environment in the body to thrive. Now, this is something called pH balance. Every food item has a pH balance going from scale of 0 to 14. Something which is at 0 is very, very acidic, and something which is at 14 is very, very alkaline. And the neutral thing is at 7, and the neutral thing is water. Water has a pH balance of 7, and that is neutral. Anything which is higher than 7, the value, if it is higher than 7, like 8, 9, or 10, it is alkaline. And if it is 6, 5, or 4, it is acidic. When we talk about acidic and alkaline, it does not mean a slight difference between 7 and 6 and 6 and 5. No. If something is at 6, that means it is 10 times more acidic than water. And anything which is at 5 is 100 times more. It moves like exponentially for a factor of 10. Our blood and other fluids in the body, they have to be at 7.45, which is 4.5 times more alkaline than water. Is it getting to be at 7.45? That it means alkaline. If it goes below that, only then can cancer cells survive or thrive. The situation is like what we used to have in India. Mm-hmm. Come summer, mosquitoes have a field day. They create a havoc in your life. But once the temperature goes down, like this month, once October comes, somehow they lose their efficacy. We even don't know where they are. But again, the moment April comes, they will make a comeback. In exactly the same way, the cancer cells come into the picture only in an acidic environment. So any acidic food would be an invitation to cancer. Now, we talked about two of them, or rather four of them. We talked about refined flour. We talked about milk concentrates like Indian mithai and meat. These are the five we talked about. Let's talk about another one, which is very common in America. That the pH balance of cola drinks is 1.5. 1.5 is highly acidic. So every time we are taking cola drinks, we are giving a written invitation.
Me, like the Coca drinks and all, I don't even get it. If you want to drink, I get something called sparkling water. So, is that sparkling
Absolutely.
water okay?
Now, the main problem is the other people. You are outvoted by other people. 1 is 2,000. You are a rare exception who doesn't want those cola drinks, but people die for that.
Yeah.
And it has a, as I told you, something which is pH balance 6 is 10 times more acidic, 5 is 100, 4 is 1,000, 3 is 10,000, 2 is 100,000, and this one is at 1.5. So a uh, 150,000 times more acidic than water. So what it'll do is it'll drag your pH balance, which is supposed to be at 7.45 downwards, and it can precipitate cancer. Some years ago, I was invited to hold my holistic course in Oklahoma, and one of the person there was a billionaire, made money from his petrochemicals, who ran a cancer hospital himself, and he was suffering from cancer. When he was not able to get cured, that is when he invited me. And when I told him the same thing, what I told you about the Coke, he just held his hand and sat there crying. He said, ever since I was 6 years old, every day I have taken 6 bottles of cola drinks. 6 bottles every day. Nobody can fault such people because they can never visualize that this can be even cancer causing. Had we known, we would have been careful. But nobody tells us. They become part of our culture. When majority of the people do something, we think that there's no harm in eating or drinking such things. Unfortunately, nature does not care whether one, they're all punished. And that is why there's such an epidemic of cancer today. Yes, please.
No, so I just wanted to ask, you think like what are the acidic food that we should avoid, and what are the alkaline food that we should eat?
Yes. Nature never makes acidic foods. That's a surprising part.
Mhm.
First of all, there's a lot of confusion about acidic foods. People put it on the internet in terms of what a particular food does to a litmus paper. If we go to basic chemistry, to know whether something is acidic or alkaline, we have what is called a litmus paper. You pour a drop of something acidic on the litmus paper, and if
Becomes
you
red or becomes blue?
or blue, alkaline, if you pour something alkaline, it becomes blue.
Blue. And if
Meaning
you
that
pour
any food, if a drop of that food is poured and it is turning red, that means it has to be acidic. No, we are talking in terms of not the effect on the litmus paper, but the effect on your blood and the other fluids in your body. For example,
example, like I've
are full
heard
of
that
citric
we have,
acid.
like lemon or grapefruit, if you put on the litmus paper it will become red and it is acidic, but in actuality it is alkaline food. Is that something?
That is what people don't understand. So nature, every fruit, every vegetable, they are all alkaline. It is the so-called processed food, it is the so-called junk food, it is the processed beef, it is they who are all acidic. Now, there is nothing wrong with taking them. You can take them, but then you have to supplement them with at least 80% alkaline foods also. Up to 20% alkaline food and processed foods, and you can take 80% alkaline food, there'll be no problem. Today, something like 80% of our diet is from the acidic foods, and that is the problem. In the stopping you from taking your uh, these popular foods, but at the same time, eat lots of fruits and vegetables. The standard practice is uh, 2 bowls of salad every day, 2 full bowls of that. That's the first thing you have to take. And 2 pounds of any fruits of your choice every day. This itself is sufficient. It will make sure that the pH balance of your body remains in the safe zone. There'll be no problem. If it comes below that, then it'll be a very serious problem. Uh, just a generation ago, fast food and junk food was a celebration. Like we used to get it if we scored some good goals in a match, or we topped the examination, or there was a wedding in the family, or there was a festival like Christmas, or we went to Nani, the
mm,
grandmother. She
mm,
used to pamper us. Unfortunately, today we have started eating them on a regular basis, so much so that some people say that home food is absolutely yucky. We have to have fast food. The
mm.
body just cannot handle so much. So, if you are so fond of junk food and fast food, nobody is stopping you. Also, don't ignore your fruits and veggies and nuts and seeds. They are your staple diet. They are supposed to be 80% of your diet. I hope that makes the whole thing clear.
Okay. All right. Do you want to just touch upon the prevention? How can we prevent? Since at the time of inception, since the time the child is born, and just good habits, prevention. Any final tips that you want to tell?
Yes, like you cited one example, I also cited another example of children getting cancer. So the mothers should be very careful that by eating wrong, they are not only uh, putting their own life at risk, they are also creating problems for their own children. And not only children, it can travel down. Even your grandchildren can be under threat. So uh, we have no right to spoil their life just to fulfill our taste requirements. This taste is very dangerous. See, we have been going fishing for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is that when you cast your net there, the fish only sees the bait. It misses the hook. It does not see the hook.
Mm-hmm.
Something similar is happening to us. The taste things are all hooks. I mean, they are all baits.
Mm-hmm.
The tasty bites that we so enjoy are the baits, but they hide a very, very lethal kind of a hook behind them. So, right from very young age, we should be very careful, and mothers should not be swayed by the general trends. Many people say that what to do, every child takes it very serious. It'll be no consolation to you that some other child also got the same disease when he grew up. So we have to modify and modulate what we are eating,
Yeah,
right?
actually, I was doing an episode on Matrix. So people say that, all these food like junk food, they're very tasty. This is all part of Matrix, part of Maya, and we should, be very careful and not get trapped in the Matrix.
It is. It is. See, this is called Tina. There is no alternative.
Uh,
In the market, when everyone is eating this kind of thing, and wherever you go, you get only such nonsensical food, we think that what do I eat then? When like you ask certain questions, what are the items not to be eaten? So when you tell them that refined flour is bad and milk concentrates are bad and your sugary items and fried items and meat etc are bad, they say, then what do we eat? So
uh,
my standard reply is, eat what your grandma used to eat.
mhm,
Refined flour came into existence only in 1876.
mhm,
Before that, we did not have the sieves to make this refined flour. And the first recorded case when somebody got cancer without drinking, without smoking, and without family history, 1910.
mm.
It took 34 years for the cancer to manifest, and it has been becoming now so prevalent that it is nobody's business. So, if instead of spending billions on finding cure, if we could spend a few millions in educating the people, we'll be doing them a great service.
Exactly. Very true.
That should be the line, right?
All right. Thank you. Do you have any final comments to my viewers of the Atman Show?
The only comment is that life is too precious. Respect yourself more than a plate of burger or a bottle of soda. Life is much more important. If those things are creating the problems, then you have no right to ruin your own life and also the lives of your future generations. That is what is happening today. So all these intriguing cases, when children are getting it, are not intriguing. They are only paying the price for the mistakes made by their parents or even grandparents. Jump the generations. A grandmother may have a problem, the daughter may not have it, the granddaughter may have it, or even the daughter of the granddaughter. So, this larger picture should always be in our mind, that we can't afford to take this risk. What would our grandchildren think, but left us in the doldrums? Right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye. Namaste.
All the
Thank
best. Namaste.